Alright guys, here we go. So what I have done, I've taken a zip tie and I've secured it to this bracket. I don't think it necessarily matters if you secure it to the bracket here or one of the frame parts right here. I just think as long as you have a consistent variable, I think that's what matters. So what I've decided to do is this rim has been connected together right there where that line is. And so what I've done is I've positioned, sorry for the shakes, I've positioned that zip tie to just barely touch, because I think at that point it's going to be the most true that tire can be. At least in my head that makes sense. And so I just have it barely touching on this side, and then on this side I have the exact same kind of setup going. I have that zip tie connected right there, barely just touching that rim. And then from here, what we can kind of see, we can see what's happening. So once I start to turn the rim, you can kind of see there's a little bit of separation from that zip tie. Now, from my understanding on this side, there should be a little bit of touching then. And yes, you're having a little bit more touching from that zip tie. So as we continue the journey, we're doing pretty good. We're making good contact. Now once we start to get here, you can kind of see more separation. We should be touching quite a bit more. It's hard to tell on the camera, but you can see that zip tie has a little bit more bend to it. Go back to this side, a little bit easier to see over here. And once we get here, we see a huge separation. And then we see this zip tie really flexing. So this is going to be the biggest part of the tire that we're going to have to work on truing. And then just a little bit more along the way. And then as we continue, you can kind of see this moving back and forth. But if I do it quickly, we can kind of see what I'm talking about. You see how much this entire thing is flexing. You can see that zip tie really moving there, you know? You can hear the other one grinding. It's really touching. So what does that mean, guys? What does that mean? So this needs to be trued. The tire needs to be trued, and then we have to go back and true the sprocket, because if the sprocket is not trued, then we're going to have a chain that isn't going to be you know, fluctuating correctly. So, and it'll pop the chain right off, or break a chain, or could, you know, something really bad could happen. So it could lead to a lot of stuff. But just kind of another, how bad is that tire? She's a wobbly. I don't know how it wasn't falling off before. Also got this little kit off of Amazon. It came with these two little tightening wrenches. This is going to be the tool that we're going to use. This can be a spoke wrench. This is the one that fits. I can give you measurements here and see what that is in a bit. Then they also sent me a wheel, which gives you a whole bunch of measurements. This is definitely the cheaper way to go. I just wanted the whole kit, so that way I just had it. I do think these ones, though, these ones are so much easier to just actually get in there and turn the spokes, which you're going to see here very soon. Hey guys, just a quick little tip too. Just so I don't have any false measurements, I went ahead and took a rag and a little bit of rubbing alcohol and just ran it around that wall, or excuse me, that rim right there on the side wall. I don't want any false measurements, so I definitely recommend doing that, because that was just one side. Haven't even done the other side, so something to think about. Just a little tip. I feel like this is going to be a very delicate process, so just try to get rid of all of your variables. Sorry, whew, it is cold out here. Can't even move my fingers. Okay, stay tuned. Alrighty guys, here we go. Let's get this. So, ending up using this little gauge right here. I'm going to be using the 14, whatever measurement that is. I'll be using the 14. That fits the spokes the best. So if you can see right here, I still have that zip tie. It's actually going across and just barely touching that rim. Again, we're using that little tiny manufacturing spot where they put the rim together right there as our overall kind of a base. I believe the rim is most true from that point until we get to the valve stem, which is down there when things start to go out of whack. So I'm gonna do some experimentation with some Sharpies. I'm gonna try to use that to gauge when it's either touching or not touching on this rim, and then maybe I can kind of use that as a reference overall. Some things to note from my understanding of how this works. Basically, if you have an area that is out of whack, it's not going to just be as simple as I'm just going to tighten this and everything's going to be okay on one side. Typically, it's going to be a number of spokes that are pulling something out of position. From my understanding as well, you need to understand that if this spoke, see, is here and then it's going up to here, I believe from my understanding, you need to understand if you're tightening these ones, it's going to pull back to us. Whereas if you tighten something on this side or loosen it, say, let's go ahead and say we're tightening this spoke on the other side, it's gonna maybe pull that back that way. Versus where if I loosen this spoke now, this is then gonna go and loosen these up. Confusing? Yes, very. One thing to note too that I learned on YouTube was you can listen to the spokes and see what the frequency is, or however you want to say it, almost like strumming it. So you can almost strum the spoke. These ones are super tight, I almost can't even strum them. But with the strumming, you can hear different pitches. So this one's kind of a lighter pitch, so maybe it's a little bit looser, where these other ones are almost super tight. And you can kind of get a feel from that, where maybe instead of tightening one that's already super tight, maybe these ones are super tight, but you still need to pull it towards you. Maybe you need to loosen these ones up, tighten this up, and then pull it back. So there's a lot to go with it. We're just gonna do our best to get this rim as best as we can for a short amount of time. In the future, I am looking into getting some better rims in general, especially for the rear, just so we got some heavier dutier spokes and maybe an actual rim that's made for this intended purpose with motorized bicycles in general. So that's a lot of hoopla, it's a lot of talking. Let's go ahead and get at it, guys. Alrighty guys, we're back. Let's go ahead and get going on this. Got the gauge ready, got it positioned. Let's go ahead. I have the rim already where I would like it to be. Make sure that both ends, I know you can't see the other side, but just assume that it's basically the same setup on that side. So what I would like to do is, let's go with the high points for orange, low points for pink. And what is gonna happen is low points will be for, we'll go around with this guy first. As it pulls away, I will go ahead and either back it up and put an orange line as it goes to a roughly approximation of where it's going to be. Then we'll go back with the pink for when it's actually pushing back on the tab, or excuse me, on the zip tie, and that will be a high point. So let's go ahead and start going. We're going to go over this little ridge. What's nice about the ridge is pop, and now we're good to go. Checking the other side, looks like good. And let's continue contact. We can always go back and forth. By the way, I have no idea if this is a thing, guys. I'm just winging it right now. Pulls away. Just pulls away for a sec. I'm not gonna worry about it. And we should be pretty good. Oh, see, there we go. There's our start. So we're good, we're good, we're good. We're good, we're good. Maybe a little bit of a high point right there, but I'm not gonna worry about that one. Low point right there, yep. Excellent, we're back. We got some coloration up on the bike. Not 100% sure how it's gonna end up playing a factor. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This is the most dreaded project. I've been putting this off. From everything I've seen, it can be very frustrating. With that being said, I have some worries that the axle itself might be a little bent down here, but I think we're okay to an extent. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do our best. We're gonna learn from it. This is the first time I've ever done this. I've watched a copious amounts of YouTube videos, so that does help immensely. With that being said, we need to just do it. That's how we learn. So even though projects are hard and we dread them, we gotta do it, right? So what are we gonna do? So I think we just need to go ahead and watch and see how this goes. One real quick thing I do want to add is that I went and cut all the little pieces of wire that the previous owner had attached on the spokes, just so this is operating correctly and we're not getting more false positives or anything like that. So let's go back to normal. So let's just say this is normal.
Filling up every space, no privacy. And silently, it could build and build until you finally see. Whoa, it's taking over, damn no closure, moving closer. No exposure, I just wanna be a loner. Some can't stay sober, looking over all their shoulders, like moving boulders just to get out of the home. It sucks, I've had enough, I don't wanna feel the stuck under the rug, all my problems that I shove. I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I've been feeling weird, I can't seem to focus good enough, nothing's really clear, sometimes it could be a little tough. I just need to feel like the end's in sight for me, but let's be really real, anxiety can foggy all this stuff. I've been feeling weird, I can't seem to focus good enough, nothing's really clear, sometimes it could be a little tough. I just need to feel like the end's in sight for me, but let's be really real, anxiety can foggy all this stuff. It sucks when you finally feel like giving up. Oh God, no luck, everything feels like you're sticky stuck. I'm lost, handcuffed to the bed where I sleep, don't give a fuck. Can't stop, unplug, feeling overwhelmed, I think I've had enough. Gotta find a way to get some energy, gotta find someone who's a good friend of me. I need purpose to make it all worth it, I'm still searching and I'm still learning. I want a life that's filled with memories, not a life with regret in front of me. I need focus to keep me from hopeless psychosis if I keep moping. I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I've been feeling weird, I can't seem to focus.
Alrighty guys, so after a bunch of tweaking and craving and twisting and prodding, I figured out that what I did was I did make the rim itself a little bit straighter, which is great, but what I ended up doing was loosened up this entire side too much. I don't know if that makes sense. So this, every spoke that comes out of this side is too loose, so the entire tire is being pulled more this way, out this way. And how I was managing to do that was, I'm not even sure if I can explain this or if I'm even correct. But so what I was doing was, when I had this situated right here and I was pushing this against here as my control, I was kind of like pushing against it kind of hard, so I had a little flex, and that was my control. So as I was going, okay, I used my marker, everything's good, right? Well, what happened was, is as I decided to start going, I started to use my control as a more straight flex where there's no flex in there. And so then I thought in my head, okay, this is where I'm starting from, this is what I want, rather than having a little bit of flex, right? So I was tuning to no flex, where it's just barely touching, so this entire side, there's almost no touching. So that's what I loosened up everything on this side a lot more, only tightened in a few spots, kind of. What I ended up doing was overall loosening up this side and tightening a lot more this side. And that's where you're starting to hear the more of the dull, you know, more of some duller spots hits. You know, like listen to this one, if you can hear it, really dull compared to this side, super tight across the board. Does that make sense? Everything's super dull on this side comparatively to the other side, where I think I'm starting to get a little flex on the other side. So off camera, I'm gonna go ahead and fix that and see where we go from there. So quick explanation of what's happening. This is actually pretty fun. It's a lot of geometry, a lot of stuff's moving, a lot of, you know, flux capacitors and everything else in between. So stay tuned, guys. Alrighty, guys, here we are. After many hours of tweaking, I think I'm probably 3 hours in. Some things to think about. One, you cannot true out a dent, which I do think I have a dent in here. And two, I think it is a lot better than it was. We're gonna go ahead and give a little test run so you can see what it looks like. And then I'm gonna try to slap both videos next to each other so we can actually see if I made it worse or better or whatever. I think, let's just go ahead and take a look. So I'm trying to hold that pretty steady as best I can. Flip the wheel. So it's moving a lot less in my opinion. Oh gosh, hard to tell. Let's go ahead and go again. Go and take a look at the overall wheel here. See what you guys think. Move the tabs, a little bit more speed there. It appears to be spinning overall a little bit better, a little bit less wobble. Hard to do it justice, I think, until I see a side-by-side. Anyways, looking forward, if I have enough time, I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to do with this. Basically, I'm just going to go ahead and take the exact same thought process, use this little guy right there on that sprocket, okay, and I should just basically be able to go ahead and tighten up where I need to tighten up and all that jazz.